Cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Do you really quickly want to introduce yourself in your own words? Who are you and what do you do?
All right, sure. I am Kelly Baums, and a lot of people know me from TikTok. My handle there is Kelly Baums. I'm also on Instagram, but
Mhm.
what the other stuff that I do, I am a librarian at an elementary school for my day job. I'm also a singer in a disco band. I have like lots of interests like fitness and personal growth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
That's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that you do. So how do you have time? I mean, thank you for finding the time. I mean, I think we rescheduled at one point, right? So to do this, you're a very busy person, it seems like. And TikTok, it seems like it's probably the newest thing that you've been doing. I mean, that's how I kind of came across you in your profile, right? Can you, am I right? Is that the most recent thing? Development?
Definitely is. Yeah.
Okay. I guess we can start there. You have a great following on there. Is TikTok something that you downloaded recently, like during kind of this whole pandemic, or is it something you've been doing for a while? Because I think you're a millennial, right?
Yep.
So you're not quite Gen Z. So you're an older person on here, although you look very young. You look like 22, maybe.
Thanks. I'm 30.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So how did all of this come about?
It was like during quarantine. I've got
Hmm.
my roommate Courtney and my friend Morgan were both like, kept on like sending TikToks,
Hmm.
like via text message, or my roommate would be on it like scrolling next to me.
Yeah.
And she was like, you could just scroll for forever. It's so addicting. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
no, then I don't need that in my
Hmm.
life.
Yeah.
And eventually I caved, and because I kept on watching the videos, and I was like, oh, I'm into this because it's not, I don't know, Instagram kind of feels a little bit fake, and
Yeah.
Facebook feels political, and TikTok sort of just felt like a place where people were like being totally themselves and
Hmm.
goofy and like
Hmm.
being real with how they were doing with all the quarantine stuff. And
Yeah.
so I connected with that, and then I downloaded it and I started watching the videos, and I was like, I could totally do this. Like I used to love making videos when I was a kid.
Okay.
I would do, yeah, just like goofy stuff, like play with the camera and like make it look like I was doing a magic trick, or,
Yeah.
write a little script. And
Yeah.
so TikTok was like, I made my first video that was kind of like a copycat of like a transformation challenge.
Hmm.
Um, and then I just kept going from there. I remember like the first one that I made that I really like was me like putting a puzzle together at the table, because I
Yeah.
was like in the place in quarantine where I was like obsessed with doing puzzles.
Yeah.
And my
Aren't we all? Yeah.
roommate,
Yeah.
my roommate came home like in the middle of me making the video, and I was like laughing hysterically, and she's like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm making TikTok. And it was like the most joy I felt just doing the goofiest thing. So I kind
Hmm.
of went with it from there.
Yeah, yeah, you've evolved in it. I think the most recent one I saw was you giving tips on how to slide into people's DMs. And I was like, oh no. I mean,
My
that's
inbox is so sad. I mean, not sad, like I get a lot of DMs, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not gonna respond to any of these because they're not like, you know
yeah, yeah. I mean, so a lot of yeah. So you decided to take it upon yourself to kind of maybe help some people out. Is that what it is, or did you feel like people were in crisis, or it was just maybe another topic to do a TikTok about?
yeah, I like kind of I came home last night, and I was like, oh, I still need to make a TikTok, and I was like, just for that, like kind of looking through some of the messages that I got, and I
Sure.
was like, man, these dudes need some help. And
What kind of stuff do you get? Just like the typical, I mean, the dating apps, I hear a lot of women say it's just hi, hello, hi, hello, hi, hello.
right, it's a
Right.
lot
So,
of that. It's a lot of people being like, love your TikToks, or like,
okay. Okay.
them like giving a compliment, which is really nice, but
Hmm.
I don't like, thank you. That's all I can say to that.
Hmm.
Um, and then also too, like so many dead ends with people, because you try to look and see like, do they have a profile picture? And then if they don't, you click on it, and then you try to see their profile to figure out who they are. And sometimes
Mm,
like, I mean, when you see a person's profile, you can kind of tell if you're maybe like around the same age or have some interests that are in common and you want to keep talking to them.
right.
But a lot of people don't. And so I was like, people maybe
You-
need to know like what a person is looking at, a woman is looking at.
Okay. Okay. That's, I mean, that's great advice. I mean, that makes absolute sense. Yeah, I think it was something like keep your profile public, stuff like that. make sure you're living in the same area. I mean, I'm sure there's people hitting on you from all over the country.
There are. And I guess
Yeah.
for some people maybe that works. You see those like TikTok love stories where like they meet up, but I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm not
Is that what
about
you're
that.
hoping for,
No,
Kelly?
not for me.
Okay. I mean, you never know, right? I think people started. It's a weird time to be alive, and dating is also very strange.
Mhm.
So it's people meet in the different ways these days. I guess that's just one of the
Right.
ways I guess people do it. So if you guys are listening and looking for tips, be sure to look that one up. Um, at which point did you start gathering a following? I guess what was there something specifically that happened?
I had just like decided one day that I was gonna become TikTok famous.
Oh, look at you. Okay.
I don't know. I okay, so like my
Hmm.
greater purpose is that like I want to get followers so that I can maybe take my career, like, you know, kind of add on to my career a little bit
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
do something with it.
Sure.
Like maybe in publishing and writing books, we'll see.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and I decided that, I mean, just from what I've read about that, that it's really good to have a solid social media following before you bring
Hmm.
what you have to a publisher.
Hmm.
And so when I found TikTok, I was like, oh, like this could be my avenue. And I just did a ton of research on how to like
Mm.
get followers. And then I was just like, okay, I'm committed to this. Like I'm gonna get TikTok famous in whatever way I can, whatever level I can.
And here
And
you are, right? Like gathering such a following.
yeah, I'm still not TikTok famous. I don't think 40,000 is quite famous. But
It's not, I mean, it's up there. It's not nothing.
no,
40,000 is a big deal because there's so many people on there, right?
right?
So even more so now, but it's such a crazy thing to have that large amount of following, right? How much is your Instagram at this point?
It's like I think it's like 2,800, which
Okay, it's lower.
yeah, I didn't I originally made a like a Kelly Baums public account because I felt weird
Mm,
like opening up my private account to the world, and then
mhm,
it became too much to manage. So then I've since like allowed my private account to become public. So
mhm.
it's been slowly creeping up there, but it's also weird to put I had to like go through all my old Instagram
Right.
and be like, what don't I want to share with the world and like archive some stuff. It's
And
weird.
you're officially working on your brand, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like who do I want to project to the world? I mean, Instagram is, yeah, if it's private, it's you're sharing it with friends and family, but it really is a tool to, project your public image to people. So, yeah, archiving stuff, maybe shifting stuff around, being careful about what you post, all these little things kind of
Yeah.
come into play, right?
Yeah, like one of the things I really have had a hard time with
Hmm.
is like the two questions is like, who am I to be doing this? Which
Oh,
I just
like
try
an
to remind
imposter
myself.
syndrome? Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And I
Sure.
kind of remind myself like that, like there is room for me.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
another thing is kind of like when my family and friends see this, like what are they gonna think? Are they gonna say like who is she to do this? And
Mm-hmm.
like that's a hard, but also it's kind of like I can't let other people's perceptions of me and what I should be doing hold me back from what I feel like I want to do. But it's still
Yeah.
like peeks in every now and then, you know?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you start getting a following, you start putting, because you are the brand, right? At the end of the day, regardless of what you do, book publishing, music, fitness,
Mhm.
wellness, all this stuff, TikTok, at the end of the day, people are following you regardless of the context, right? So it can get it gets very weird in the sense that people start commenting on things and saying things about you and you're not asking for that input,
Right.
right, and for that feedback. So and people start saying some really mean things. So I mean, you hear celebrities say it, um but people start commenting and saying really mean things, and you have to just learn to either not read it or let thicken your skin, essentially, which is a bummer, right?
Yeah.
have you
It's
had anything like have you had anything like that happen yet?
yeah. Yeah. I've had
Yeah.
like I don't feel like I've had a ton. The first one I got was some dude commenting on my eyebrows and like how I
Okay.
should grow them in. And I was like, but they don't grow. He told me they were too far apart. And I was like, but they don't grow in. I don't pluck there. But
What the heck?
but I made
Wow,
a whole
dude.
video like
Okay.
kind of like making fun of him and
Mm-hmm.
pretending like I was sad. But it really did. When I read it, I laughed and then I was so mad. I
And
was
you
like,
looked in the mirror and you're like, wait, what?
yeah, I was like, do my eyebrows really not look good?
No, you
But
look great. You look great. Not that you're asking for me, but like you look great. Yeah.
okay. But like, it's like that, you get those comments and you want to explain
Right.
yourself, but you realize that that's not putting energy in the right place. And then also
Uh-huh.
too, I feel like as a woman, you get lots of comments from dudes who are like complimenting you, and it feels like I'm like, that's not why I put stuff out there. Um,
You're not seeking the attention, right? You're doing it as a tool to leverage your career, like you said, right?
yeah,
So that makes sense. So you said career, but you do so many different things. What do you see yourself as your career being?
in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like you're a librarian, right? Which you said writing. So is that, did you go to school for that? What did you do?
I went to school. My bachelor's is in elementary education, and my
Okay.
master's is in library sciences.
Okay.
So this year I'm teaching third grade just because of COVID, but normally I'm a librarian in an
Mm-hmm.
elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I have always loved to write, and like, I've published
Mm-hmm.
a book before as like a project in college. And
Nice.
yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like knowing my strengths, and like, I'm a pretty decent writer, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing how I love to like, I like to work from home. I like to be my own boss. I like to do
Mm-hmm.
something creative but also meaningful. It kind of feels like that could be a way to combine all those things.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Has literature always been something that you kind of that you enjoy?
You know what? I was like a struggling reader when I was a kid, and I don't think
Yeah.
I loved to read until after college when people stopped telling me what to read.
Yeah, it changes, right? Something shifts. It was after grad school for me. I found I had to get a degree in literature in a
Yeah,
third language, but it was something that really, all of a sudden, I found this passion and love for it, and then it really kind of took on a life of its own after school.
yeah,
Exactly like that, because I'm like, I can read whatever I want now, and I don't have to write a paper on it.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
freedom just creates like so much more, yeah,
Hmm.
love.
Is there a specific type of writing that you like?
I usually write. I like any kind of writing, but I find
Okay.
myself like when I'm doing like my favorite type, it tends to rhyme. So like, that's what I've been trying to
Huh.
figure out with my Instagram, and that has been really scary lately. Is
Mm.
the books, because I've already kind of written at least one and a half of the
Hmm.
books that I
Hmm.
want to publish,
Sure.
and I've been trying to figure out like, how do I integrate like my love of writing and kind of what I want to put out there, the message I want to share with the world,
Hmm.
into my Instagram. And so I've been making my like comments under my Instagram pictures, like some of them are sort of like poetry. It's
So like the
weird.
caption to each photo is like a short poem.
Yeah, which seems like, I don't know, I put it out there and I'm like, is this dorky? Are people gonna think I'm like weird? It's
Oh,
hard.
yeah. I mean, you're obviously thinking about it, right? So do you tend to spiral like me?
Yeah, yeah, you too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a generational thing. A very anxious bunch. Let's put it that way. Anyone in their 30s these days. Did you just turn 30? You just turned 30, right?
Just in June, yeah.
Yeah, so you're 1990 baby. So
Mhm.
congratulations on that, by the way. You hit it. 30 club.
Yeah.
So it only gets better from there, by the way. So yeah, I think it's such an, I lost my train of thought. It's all good, but congratulations on the 30. I did want to kind of take a left turn though and go back to kind of a lot of the other stuff that you do. So like the career and all of this, I think it's, you do so much, and writing seems like that's where your passion is, right? That's where you want to create. So you don't seem like the type of person that will ever just stick to one thing.
No.
No, no. So where does music and wellness and fitness come into all of this? Because you seem like you're pretty decent at every single one of these things, right?
Like me, yeah, decent.
I mean, what? Okay, so I'm saying decent because I don't want to like, hype you up.
No,
I'll gas you up all day, girl. Like, like I'm like, yeah, you're the greatest. But I want to know where you're at. So, we can just touch on one. Like, so you're in a band. I've seen you play a couple of like songs. You have a great voice. On your TikTok, what do you do in the band, and what's the band called?
okay, so our band is Superfly Symphony.
Okay.
We're on Instagram. We play in the Chicago suburbs.
Hmm.
Um, we've been together, I think, since like 2014. So it's like been a minute. There's 7 of us in the band, and we're like all disco. So
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so originally I got into that. I used to be, when I graduated college, I was
Hmm.
looking for like hobbies, and I had a college roommate who taught me how to play ukulele.
Okay.
And so I joined this ukulele club out of Hicks Brothers Music in
Hmm.
Aurora, and
Okay.
would play with them. And then we were doing like a festival or something. And the guy doing our sound, his name was Ken.
Sure.
And Ken came up to me a couple days later and he was like, hey, and I had sung a couple songs with them.
Hmm.
And Ken was like, hey, I'm starting this disco band project. I want you to audition to be the singer or like one of the singers. And I
Oh
was like,
wow.
because I've never had any like training in
Hmm.
music.
Hmm.
So sometimes I feel a little bit like the weakest link, but I've learned a lot because there's three singers, and the other two, like one of them has professional training, and the other
Okay.
one is a jobber. Like that's what he does for his living is he
Hmm.
sings.
Hmm.
So it's like it's cool because I get to be in a band as
Okay.
like a non-professional working with professionals.
Yeah, and you're a vocalist, so you're the only female vocalist. It sounds like, right?
No, there's two of us. Like disco music is, we all split the sets into thirds, and then the
Okay.
song that you're not leading on, you're doing all those songs you're not leading on, you're doing backup on, because there's
Okay.
like a million harmonies and everything, and
Right. Right. That's quite a genre.
it's really hard to pretend I'm like this like small white lady pretending to be like this like BA black lady like busting out these amazing songs and
So I mean, yeah, I've only heard like kind of like snippets of your voice. Do you have stuff and samples that I can play for the listeners at some point? Like I send me an audio file and I'll play it for them.
okay, I'll do that. We actually just recorded some originals. I don't know if we're ready to put them out yet. But yeah, we do have some samples I'll send you, and they're I think
Yeah.
YouTube and
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's really awesome. That's really cool. So is that just more for fun?
yeah, I don't think I'd ever. I mean, I wouldn't mind. We play gigs like once or twice a month, which for me is fine because it takes like when we do gigs, it takes the whole day for me to like mentally prepare, and then the whole
Mm-hmm.
next day to recover.
Sure.
I'm sorry, someone was just buzzing. It might be a package.
Oh no, you're good.
um, but yeah, it takes me like a day to mentally prepare for it and like a day to recover from it. So I
Hmm.
don't feel like I'd ever want to make that like more than just a hobby.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like it is a full-time gig, and a lot of people takes a lot to make it in music, right? So if you have something else, so how does wellness and how does like the fitness, all of that fit into your life, and how does that kind of all intertwine into what you do on a daily basis?
I think, how do I even start with that?
Yeah,
When I was in, this is going like way back. Like I want to take you back
let's
on like,
let's do it. Let's do it. You're from Chicago, right?
I'm from Chicago. Yeah. Wait, where
Okay,
are you from?
I'm in Albuquerque.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
No, Mexico.
Hmm.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I was getting all these sinus infections, and like every other month for at least a couple of years, I was on antibiotics to like solve that problem.
Hmm.
And then after a couple of like years of being on the antibiotics, I started having digestive issues,
Okay.
and so then started going on like proton pump inhibitors, which is like for acid reflux or
Okay.
GERD.
Okay.
And I mean, we realize now like how bad those both antibiotics and
Yeah.
proton pump inhibitors are for the gut. And
Hmm.
so all through college, like I had issues with anxiety, I had issues with like acid reflux, I
Mm.
had like skin issues, just like this a myriad of problems.
Yeah.
Um, and then after college, I was just like determined to fix it. And so I started listening
Okay.
to podcasts from I love Sean Stevenson was like the first one that I listened to. He has a show called the Model Health Show.
Hmm.
He talks about like all sorts of things that have to do with health, like whether it's like fitness or gut health or mental
Right.
health
Right.
or anything like that. So I got into him, got into for a while the Bulletproof guy. What's his name again?
The coffee.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Bulletproof podcast. I forget
okay.
what the guy's name is, but I got into
Sure.
him. He's interesting. And then I eventually made my way to Dr. Mark Hyman, who's like my favorite guru right now.
Hmm.
But all of that to say, like, so it was just this like whole many years long journey of trying to figure out like what, how to heal my body. And then also too, fitness comes into it because I just started getting really into fitness.
Hmm.
Um, Honestly, through finding, I started with Orange Theory and I
Oh
ended
yeah, I
up
know Orange.
my trainer there, and like learned so much from him. And that was just like this starting block to like learning to love lifting weights and fitness. And
Yeah, yeah. Orange is kind of a life-changing thing. It did a very similar thing to me, which is crazy. I was already kind of on a spiritual wellness growth path beforehand, but it was the body component that came into play, right? And I started lifting more and running more, especially during the pandemic because they shut down, right?
right.
So I started doing a ton of stuff on my own, and I did cancel my membership, unfortunately for them, but they really set the tone for like my perception of how to kind of get fit,
Yeah.
which is a very interesting thing. And I'm in love with it these days, right? But there is kind of this physical component or mental and emotional and biological thing, right? So, I mean, you were sick, you were not feeling well. What did you discover and what shifted? Are you better?
Yeah, I feel a lot better. I have a functional medicine doctor now that's helped me more than like any of my
Okay.
like general practitioner doctors have.
Sure, sure.
But I mean, the thing for me was I needed to cut out the food. I needed to get off the medicine that
Hmm.
was like inhibiting me from digesting food. Because after
Right,
years of that, I stopped producing stomach acid.
right.
Yeah,
That's not good. Yeah.
which is why everything I would have reflux. And so I needed to wean myself off of that. And then I needed to stop eating the foods that gave me reflux. And the biggest culprits for me were gluten and dairy. Um,
Hmm.
but also things like corn and like vegetable oils, like were really inflammatory for me and really
Sure.
for everyone.
Yeah.
So I, yeah, kind of switched off of that. And it's so true. Like you said, with the mind body thing, like once you start fine tuning things or like, kind of tuning up in one area and you realize that it's connected to another area, it's like everything kind of starts to come together. And like, yeah, my spirituality, my like
Hmm.
physical fitness, what I ate, like how I rested and how I managed my stress, like it all has just been this, tweaking that, or like backsliding on this and then trying to come back and, get back in with the habit.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Oh, I'm hearing myself all of a sudden. Wait.
Oh no, I don't
Okay.
hear
That's better now.
you.
Okay. So it is all interconnected. I think I think diet has so much to do with a lot of stuff, right?
Mhm.
Have you ever looked into Ayurvedic eating?
Okay, so I don't know much about Ayurvedic eating.
Okay.
I have an awesome therapist who's
Okay.
like, she does a lot of research on that kind of stuff too. And she has talked about things like, I know that smoothies are not good, right? Because it's like
Mm.
eating so many different food groups at once.
Mm.
And I know you're supposed to eat a lot of foods warm. That's all I know. What do you know? Tell me things.
So, I mean, everyone's like a different body type, and a lot of it has to do with like your body temperature.
Uh,
So I think it's called Pitta. That's what I am.
oh
So,
yeah.
right. So I run hot.
Uh,
So hot things tend to it just exacerbate that heat. So I overheat. So I don't do well in the heat. I don't know why I'm living in the desert, honestly.
yeah, what are you doing?
Right, right. So I stay indoors a lot during the summer. The fall and the winter are like my jam, right? But and I like it rainy and cold. So I should be in the Midwest or the Pacific Northwest, honestly. Um, either way, I've had to learn to like wean myself off of spicy foods.
Mhm.
Um, cheese, I'm lactose intolerant, so cheese, I've just had to learn to not eat it. And you get used to it, right? You get
Yeah.
used to not eating dairy or all these things, and you start seeing the benefits mostly because you realize that how you were feeling before was not normal, but you were just so
Yeah.
conditioned to it that you didn't realize what normal was, what okay was. So now that I'm not eating those things, I feel better, right? So I used to love stews and soups, and I every now and then, but it has to be a very kind of specific time of year, only when it's cold.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a very much kind of like a yin and yang thing, balancing out your body temperature, balancing out your diet, things that give you acid reflux, stuff like that. A lot of the time, if you do have acid reflux, it just turns out that you're just dehydrated, so you need to hydrate. So really kind of becoming in touch with your body and listening to it. Like, does this hurt? Does this feel a certain way? Having a different relationship with what you're putting in, I mean, and how it's coming out as energy and little things like that. And it sounds kind of like hippy dippy, but it really does make a difference because all you're really doing is just listening to your body.
Yeah.
right? And not just putting junk inside.
Okay, so wait, how do I find out what my body type is?
Honestly, I just had friends, right? I had friends that were kind of like telling me like, do you have this, and this? So there's stuff online. There's stuff online, and I can send it to you even. But I
Okay.
think it's just kind of, it's kind of like one of those things where like you figure out your personality type, or whatever. Have you done those tests? Have you ever
Yeah.
done that? Yeah, like I'm an INT or INTFG or a J. I remember what it is. INFJ. That's what it is.
Okay.
So but anyways, it's kind of like figuring that out and then adjusting your diet to that. Obviously, it's a very general way of looking at it, so you can pick and choose. But for the most part, it's worked for me, right?
Yeah.
And also, like having gone to doctors in the past, because I was having like really extreme headaches and not really extreme, but just like tension and pressure, and I couldn't figure out what it was. But doctors ran panels and tests, and all it really was, and I don't know how they didn't figure this out. I had just an iron deficiency.
Oh,
Right. I mean, how do you not know that?
right.
And I started taking daily iron and a B complex and a few other things, and I've been fine for a few months now, which is insane. So it's just I want all this long-winded kind of statement to kind of say like I relate in the sense that like all this stuff really kind of starts building upon itself, right? And it starts leading you down this path of just better living.
Right. Well, and especially like, I mean, coming from like going in high school and in college, going to like a typical doctor and them just
Sure.
being like, here's this prescription.
Mm-hmm.
And I even remember when my doctor put me on the PPIs, he
Mm-hmm.
was like, your goal is not to be on this for forever. Like we hope to wean you off. But then he
Right.
gave me no information about how to get off of it, or like that he didn't even tell me like you're going to need to make a lifestyle change. And
Okay.
so it was just like this lack of information, and then thinking like that I was going to be dependent on these drugs for my whole life. And then when in the
Mm-hmm.
end, it was like I didn't need that to heal my body, and you can just
Mm-hmm.
heal it with food and with like
Right.
listening to it. And yeah.
Right. So I think you kind of you hit the nail on the head with saying that it's a lifestyle change, right? There's no fixing it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's your body, and this is the only body you've got. So you're gonna have to change how you approach it, how you take care of it, what you put into it for the rest of your life if you want to have a good one. For the lack of a better kind of term, you want to have a good life.
And there's so
So
many people.
mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So many people want.
I think there's so many people who I meet who are like, I don't know how you do the no dairy thing or the no gluten thing or like the not a lot of sugar or whatever. And I'm
Sure.
like, well, it's not worth the trade off for me anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's like
Mm-mm.
it's I know
You
how
feel like crap. Yeah.
like I know how good I feel when I don't do it. And so
Mhm.
like I've done the halfway doing it and found like that still doesn't work. So
Yeah, because there is that kind of weaning off time period, right? I don't know how long you've been doing it. For me, it took me a while. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll have some cheese here, I'll have some
right.
dairy here, and then you're just like, whoa, dude, like it's never worth it. Like, why do you keep doing it?
Uh-huh.
And don't get me wrong, every now and then I'm just like, I get a craving, and I'm like, all right, just this one time.
Right. Like I'm gonna do it. I'm happy ice cream.
Right. Because anybody who's allergic to anything just stops, right? But like lactose intolerant people, for some reason, like they're the only ones who just they're like, it's worth
Yeah. I
it.
had ice cream this week and I was like, oh my God, I forgot it could taste this good.
It is
It's
really
so
good.
good.
It's so good. But there's just like I think Ben and Jerry's. They're not a sponsor, but Ben and Jerry's has a really good dairy-free ice cream. Their Cherry Garcia is pretty decent.
Oh, I've never had it.
The dairy free, yeah, and it is very good. I was surprised, and it caught me off guard. I can't really taste the difference, but I'm also like several years into it, so I'm
Yes.
really used to the way things taste
Right.
these
Same. Like
days.
Nadamu. Did you have Nadamu?
I think I have,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God. You need to, that's like the best
Wait,
dairy
are
free.
they your sponsor?
No, but they should be.
You
They're,
guys hear this? You guys hear
yeah,
this? All
you
right.
guys hearing this? I'll talk you up all day long. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, they are like, I don't feel like I miss ice cream because I
Mhm.
have.
Well, there's a lot of really good alternatives, right? I mean, the early days. For a large portion of my 20s, I was like a vegetarian or vegan,
Mhm.
and it served its purpose at that point. But like the options, like the alternatives, weren't very good back then.
Yeah.
And they've really progressed. Like the yogurts are actually pretty decent now. They used to be super chunky and watery and it was gross.
I haven't had a good yogurt yet.
Yeah, no, like dairy-free yogurt. The soya one I think is okay.
Okay.
It used to not be. I'm just gonna flat out say it. So
Oh,
I didn't try it for a long time. And I saw somebody eating it, and it looked different from what I'd had.
yeah.
I tried it, and it wasn't half bad. I mean, I still haven't bought it since, but it was okay, you know. But again, it's. I remember very vividly early on in my 20s, somebody who I knew who's vegan. He told me, he's like, I don't. He's like, it's a lifestyle change, so I'm not going out there putting alternatives into my body or like meat replacements or all this stuff. I changed my lifestyle, so I need to kind of change it completely. So that's why I don't really do yogurt, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that I change my life for me personally, right, for the better, because it's different for everyone else or for each individual person. So that I'm not out there seeking it, because it's something that I've already kind of cut out in a way.
Yeah.
So if I have it as a treat here and there, great. But it's not something I eat regularly anymore. I have fond memories about it. Nothing against the dairy industry, don't come after me. But yeah. I mean, it sounds like you have a very similar path. So is wellness, when you say wellness, for me, a lot of the time, it also comes down to like a mental wellness or like emotional
Yeah.
well-being. Is that something that you've had kind of explored over your lifetime?
Oh yeah, big time. I
Okay.
feel like that's probably the biggest, like,
Yeah.
I like if I had to say like one thing about who I am, I feel like I'm always striving to keep getting better and to keep improving
Okay.
and to be happier and more peaceful. And
Okay. Okay. So like, what do you do? Like, is it like a meditation, sort of some sort of practice, or?
I think it all started when I graduated college, like a few
Hmm.
years after. Like I always struggled with anxiety since I think it was kind of like the
Yeah.
antibiotics and the gut health stuff that kicked it off for me. And then when I got out of college, I was like, I'm over this. Like other people don't feel this. I don't want to feel this.
Like
This
the
doesn't.
anxiety, Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I made a call and I started going to therapy. I remember the first session I had in therapy. I couldn't believe I had like gone to therapy and that I was the kind of person that like needed therapy. I'm doing air
Mm.
quotes because,
Okay.
like I
Yeah.
think any kind of person therapy can benefit. But I just like laid on the couch and cried for like the whole session because I was like, just had so many feelings of like pent up pain and guilt and like that I was there and that
Hmm.
I needed that.
Hmm.
But in the end, therapy has been like a life
Yeah.
changing thing. Like it helped me get through some past experiences, but also it's just helpful to have a person on your side who is
Yeah.
professional,
Right.
doesn't have like an investment in their own priorities when they're giving you advice or
Hmm.
thoughts about
Hmm.
what you're going through.
Right, because your friends are always and your family are always going to have your back, right? So it's very biased kind of advice that they'll give you, and it's not the best sounding board.
Yeah.
You're right. Like there's nothing like talking it out, and I mean, therapy is super underrated in my opinion. I think it's
Yeah.
a very important thing. Honestly, if I'm ever seeking kind of partnership in anybody, I'm like, so, like, are you talking to anybody about that?
Yeah.
And like in a nicest way possible, right? But um, usually for me, it's kind of like it's a good thing. It's not a red flag,
Yeah.
because that means that you're actively taking the time to look at yourself, right? These are my faults, but also I'm working on healing, and getting better, because you've reached a point of just kind of surrender with the fact that, like, yeah, I'm anxious and I'm tired. Like it's exhausting having to deal with your anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about before, now that I remembered, right? So so the anxiety, and it's just like, it's it's good to talk it out. Did you ever kind of have to go on like meds or anything like that, or was it just therapy that helped?
No, I never had to go on meds.
Nice.
I was never quite at a point where it was like like bad enough where I needed that, but
Yeah.
it just helped me realize like patterns of thinking that I was having,
Yeah.
like ruminations and like the stories I was telling myself. But I think the other thing that like that my therapist is really awesome. She's, people might call her like woo woo or whatever, but
Hmm.
I'm into it.
Hmm. Sure.
Um, but she got me into like meditation
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so many other things, that,
I think
you know,
it's being from in New Mexico, I think that's more on brand with the Southwest, right? You like
I,
spiritually find yourself, man. Like you got to meditate and get some
yeah.
energy work done.
I was
Uh,
hanging out with a friend recently, like a newish friend,
yeah.
and I asked her when her birthday was, and she was like, why? And I was like, I want to know what your zodiac sign is. And she was like, oh, you believe in that? And I was like, oh, we're just getting started, my friend.
So what is your sign? Now that I'm asking.
I am Cancer Sun, Cancer Moon, and Scorpio rising.
Dang, Scorpio rising. Ooh, watch out,
I know,
people.
a lot of
No,
water.
no, gonna drown. You're just gonna no. No, those are good signs. Cancer's good. You're really in touch with your feelings. So that's very important, right? Very talking it out and all this stuff. Something that just kind of came to mind was this pattern of thinking that you have kind of just said, and then the emotions and feelings. And I've even done hypnotherapy, right?
Mhm.
And I'm actually going to hang out. We've become friends, which is, I don't think is very kind of good that you become friends with your former therapist, but we were friends before, right?
I'm curious about people who do that though.
Yeah, yeah. And she was great. She was just like a homie, We actually, we go and try different like wellness things together where I'm going to get like, I'm going to go sit in like this red light sauna today, which
Mhm.
is going to be amazing. And I'm like,
That's so
my birthday's coming up. So I'm just like, I'm just going to treat myself and we're going to
yeah.
get a ton of stuff done. I'm like, yeah, well, like it's because the physical and the mind and sitting in that heat
Mhm.
and on purpose, right? Even though I don't do well with it. But hypnotherapy and therapy in general and kind of shifting the patterns of thought have really taught me the biggest thing I've learned was like specifically around like love, right? And how I look at love in the belief that I deserve a certain type of love,
Mhm.
right? And deconstructing that and saying that I'm worthy of other kinds or more than just that, right? And
Mhm.
things that are just ingrained in us at a very young age. And I'm sure culturally we're different. We're in different regions of the country. How much did your, maybe, I don't know your background, but like your Midwestern kind of roots kind of dive into the whole, into who you are and your pattern of thinking? Do you think it kind of did a lot? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I grew up Catholic too, so like the Catholic guilt
Oh,
is
Catholic guilt.
real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 And I don't know, I'm like really close to my family too, and
Mm,
so their opinions have always mattered to me, but it's kind of in the last few years, especially just like having a therapist to bounce things off of,
yeah.
there have been times when I've brought things up and I'm like, I shouldn't do that. Like I wanted to go
Mm,
an au pair, which is
yeah.
like being a nanny overseas. And my family was like, no, no. And then I brought it
Mm,
up to my therapist that I was interested in. She was like, why not? You're 24. And so I was like, oh my
yeah.
God, like I can tell my parents, I love you, but I'm going to do this anyway, even though you say no.
Did
So
you
I
do it?
think I did it. Yeah, I did it for 2
Nice.
summers.
Where?
But I was in Madrid the first summer and then in Rome for the second summer.
All right. So you're fluent in Spanish and Italian.
Nope.
All
Wish.
right.
But I think that those were like, it was that big idea that like
Mm-hmm.
I can be different from my
Right.
family and I can want different things than my family wants for me, and I can still be accepted and loved and worthy of love.
Yeah, you very much are, and it kind of why see how we're going full circle here. Get ready, you ready?
Get it.
And it goes back into kind of like their perception online, right?
Hmm.
And your brand and what people think of you, and you being able to kind of be like, you know what, this is my decision. This is who I am. This is who I want to be,
Hmm.
right? And not taking crap from anybody and just being you for all
Hmm.
intents and purposes and sticking with that, right? I mean, I think that needless to say, you don't have a following for no reason, right? People really resonate with your content. They identify with it. They relate to it. All those words, and you're. I'm sure that all this stuff. I think something that you said at one point was you were buying a house, right? I
Hmm.
think you're buying a house, you're 30, you're not, you're single, you're in all these things, and you didn't think you were going to be in this place. but so many people see that message and you being you and relate to it, and they're just like, wow, okay, this person who's doing this and all these, this very talented, that seems, that's doing all these things, is going through the same thing I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, right? So in a very kind of passive way, you're helping a lot of people. I mean, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do, is
Okay,
like be super authentic and be like,
sure,
this is the hard stuff that I'm going through. And like, yeah,
right.
because I do have a lot of people who meet me and they're like, you're not really who I thought you were when I first met you.
What do they think?
I guess maybe in real life versus like because I feel like I'm pretty goofy on TikTok, but in real life, I think people think I'm like pretty reserved and like straight laced. I get a lot of that even on TikTok though, but just because I can't, like I have to be PG
Sure, sure.
documentary. Um, but yeah, I think that's what I hope to do, is like be vulnerable and like let people connect with that, because that was the whole reason for me that like I changed my life going to therapy, because I had a friend who was vulnerable enough to tell me that she was going to therapy. And I was like, what? Like someone that I admire needs that too, and realizing it was okay.
Yeah, it's it's a beautiful thing, right? It's because you start working on yourself, right? It's the whole idea, like, of you can't pour from an empty kettle.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't help those around you and be good for those around you if you're not okay yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the irony is that in focusing on yourself for once and doing things for you and being better for you, you're the side effects of that, and the results of that are you're being able to help and shine for everyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's mhm.
Go ahead.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
that's great. I was just gonna say that's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like, I know that some people are like super politically active and,
Sure, sure.
picketing or posting things on the internet, like about their points of view and trying to change people's minds. And like,
Hmm.
I've never felt called to do that, but like, I do
Sure.
feel like my way of creating change is kind of like by
Hmm.
doing what you said, like putting out that message, being vulnerable, connecting with people, making space for that type of content and that type of expression.
Right. I just thought of being water, right? Like you into Taoism at all, but it's just being soft like water, right? Being a landing pad for people to come to, and providing that space for people to kind of feel good and be okay. And yeah, I mean, it's just, you don't necessarily have to. Yeah, a lot of people try to change people's minds,
Mm-hmm.
like you said. I inherently believe at my core that you're never going to change anybody's mind by
Mm-hmm.
trying to change somebody's mind. That's a big part of Taoism, right? Is you lead by example. You live your life. You live the best life that you can, as well as you can, as kindly as you can,
Mm-hmm.
and those around you will start seeing the difference, and you'll start being. They'll change on their own accord, because people are set in their ways, unfortunately, a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But by introducing yourself and becoming a person in their life and just being that good that maybe they need, then you're going to be able to kind of shift that thinking, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what's going to happen, right? But you're never going to change anybody's mind by trying to force them. It's like being in a relationship and trying to change the person into the person you want them to be. It's just
Yep.
not going to work out, and it's not healthy,
No.
right? It's not healthy. I've dated plenty of people who've done that to me. I've tried to do that to people, right?
Ah,
It's just like, but you learn from those experiences, and you start moving forward, and you're just like, you know what? Like, lay back, man. Like, do whatever you want. I support you. I adore you. You go and do whatever you're going to do. I'll be here on the sideline cheering you on, right?
right. You can't like learn someone's lesson for them, or you can't force someone to learn the lesson that you think that they need.
No, no. And like, you can tell them like, hey, listen, like, I don't think this is good, as much as you can, but then just leave it there, right? Like, do the next right thing, and then just move on.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and just be a friend, because a friend is empathetic and just like is there to show support and to do all this stuff. Wow, we really went on a tangent there.
Yeah, we did. I love it.
Good combo. You're great. Thank you so much for coming on as well.
Great.
But like, I think there's, so again, plugs on Instagram. What's your Instagram? What's your TikTok? And then what's the your band's Instagram?
So my Instagram and my TikTok handle are at Kelly Baums, KELLYBAUMS.
Mm-hmm.
And then my band's Instagram handle is Superfly Symphony. So SUPERFLYSYN. Wait, SYMPHONY.
You did it.
I did it. I'm really good at spelling, but not when I'm nervous on camera.
Oh no, you're good. It's Friday. I get you. And you know, I'm about to go hit the spa. I don't know about you.
I'm so jealous. That sounds so cool.
It's great. If you're ever in Albuquerque, you know, we'll hit up a spa and like, I mean, there's some good ones here, you know, again,
Okay.
and you, or you can get some energy work done, man, you know.
Oh man, I would love that. It's hard to find stuff like that up here.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was actually going to be up in Chicago this in May, but then the world kind of collapsed. So, you know, I do have a lot of friends up there, so I'm planning. Maybe I'll hit you up when I'm up there. But either way, if you guys are listening, thank you so much for listening. I'm going to hit pause and we can debrief really quickly. But again, thank you so much for coming and listening to this. Love you guys. Bye.